Now you'll get a little surprise for cheating with my best friend. Didn't see that coming, huh?
The spa receipt fell out of Vanessa's purse like a confession. $400 for a couple's massage package dated last Tuesday, the same Tuesday she'd supposedly been stuck in traffic coming home from her event planning conference. I stood in our kitchen holding the crumpled paper, wondering when my wife had gotten so sloppy, or maybe she just didn't care anymore. After 18 years of marriage, maybe covering tracks felt like too much work. "Dean, you okay?" Caleb asked, walking into the kitchen with his backpack slung over his shoulder. My 18-year-old son had that look he got when he sensed something was wrong. Sharp kid. Too sharp for his own good sometimes. "Just reviewing some receipts," I said, stuffing the paper into my pocket. "Your mom's got expensive taste in relaxation these days." Caleb grabbed an apple from the counter. "She's been going to a lot of conferences lately." "Must be stressful work." "Must be." The front door opened, and Vanessa's voice rang through the house. "I'm home." She appeared in the kitchen doorway, all smiles and energy. Event planner smile, the one she wore for clients. These days, it seemed like the only one she wore for me, too. "How was the networking thing?" I asked. "Productive. Really productive." She kissed my cheek, and I caught a whiff of cologne that wasn't mine. "I'm going to shower." "Long day." As she headed upstairs, I noticed she was walking differently. Not tired from work different. Satisfied different. That night, I lay in bed listening to her breathe beside me. We hadn't had sex in 3 months. She claimed stress, hormone changes, busy schedule, all reasonable excuses. But reasonable excuses don't buy couples massages. I'd been a contractor for 20 years before the market crashed, and I took a job at the hardware store. I knew how to spot structural problems. When foundations shifted, when support beams weakened, when something that looked solid was actually ready to collapse. My marriage was showing stress fractures. The next morning, Vanessa announced another conference. It's in Burlington, 3 days. The theme is Empowering Women Through Creative Partnerships. She was already packing, moving with the efficiency of someone who'd done this many times. "Sounds inspiring," I said. "It will be. Sarah and Lisa are going too. Girls' weekend with a professional twist." After she left, I sat at the kitchen table with her credit card statements. I'd been handling our finances for years, so she wouldn't find it suspicious. What I found was a pattern. Monthly charges at a gym called Iron Paradise. We didn't belong to any gym. Vanessa claimed she got her exercise from yoga videos. Restaurant charges in towns she'd never mentioned visiting. Gas station purchases on routes that didn't match her supposed destinations. And hotel rooms. Always single occupancy, always charged to her card, always on nights she claimed to be staying with friends. I called the hardware store and told them I had food poisoning. Then I drove to Iron Paradise. The gym sat on the outskirts of town, a converted warehouse with tinted windows and motorcycles parked outside. Not exactly Vanessa's scene. She usually avoided places that didn't serve kombucha. I parked across the street and waited. 2 hours later, a black Camaro pulled up. The driver was tall, muscular, with sleeve tattoos and the kind of confidence that came from never being told no. He walked into the gym like he owned it, which, according to the sign, he did. Rafe Dugan, owner and trainer. I sat in my truck, pieces clicking together like a blueprint. Vanessa's sudden interest in fitness, her new clothes that somehow never made it home. The way she checked her phone constantly and always angled it away from me. My phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. "Dad, check out this Instagram post. Isn't that Mom?" The photo showed a group of women at some fancy resort. In the background, barely visible, was Vanessa. She was laughing, head thrown back, while a man's tattooed arm wrapped around her waist. The same tattoos I'd just seen on Rafe Dugan. I screenshotted the image and drove home. The house felt different now, not like a home, like a crime scene where the chalk outlines were still fresh. That evening, I cooked dinner and waited for Vanessa to call. She always called during her conferences to check in. The good wife routine. "How's the empowerment going?" I asked when she finally rang. "Amazing. The speakers are incredible. Really life-changing stuff." "I bet. What's the weather like up there?" "Oh, typical Vermont." "A little chilly. I was looking at the weather app. Burlington was having a heat wave. 85 degrees and sunny." "Well, stay warm," I said. "I will. Love you." "Love you too." I hung up and stared at the phone. She'd gotten so comfortable lying that she didn't even bother to check her stories anymore. The next day, I drove back to Iron Paradise. I needed to see more, understand what I was dealing with. The parking lot was fuller this time, and I recognized some faces from town. Guys who worked construction, a few cops, some local tough guys who hung out at Murphy's bar. I was about to leave when someone tapped on my window. "You lost, buddy?" The guy was young, maybe 25, with the kind of build that came from steroids and too much free time. He wore an Iron Paradise t-shirt and had the dead eyes of someone who enjoyed hurting people. "Just looking for directions," I said. "To where?" "The hardware store. I work there." He studied me for a long moment. "You're Dean Whitmore." It wasn't a question. I nodded. "You need to find a different route to work. This neighborhood might not be safe for you." "Is that a threat?" "It's friendly advice from a friend." He walked away, and I noticed him talking to two other guys near the entrance. They all looked my way, and none of them looked friendly. I drove home with my hands shaking, not from fear, from anger. These people knew who I was. They knew about me while I was just figuring out about them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Vanessa's lies, about the gym, about the friendly advice from a stranger who knew my name. Around 2 a.m., I got up and went to the computer. I Googled Rafe Dugan Iron Paradise. The first result was a news article from 3 years ago. Local gym owner arrested on attack charges. The charges had been dropped, but the article mentioned his alleged connections to regional criminal organizations. It also mentioned that he was on parole for a previous conviction. I printed the article and put it in the kitchen drawer next to the spa receipt. When Vanessa came home from her conference, she was glowing, refreshed, like she'd just had the best weekend of her life. "How was the empowerment?" I asked. "Incredible. I learned so much about creative partnerships." "I bet you did." She gave me a strange look. "You seem different. Everything okay?" "Just tired. Work's been stressful." "Well, maybe you should take a weekend trip. Get away, clear your head." The suggestion felt like a dismissal, like she was already planning my absence. "Maybe I will," I said. That Monday, I went to work but couldn't concentrate. Every customer who walked through the door might be one of Rafe's friends. Every phone call might be a warning. Around lunch, my boss pulled me aside. "You seem distracted lately. Everything good at home?" "Just going through some stuff." "Marriage stuff?" I nodded. "Want some advice?" "Document everything. If things go south, you'll need evidence." He was divorced. Twice. He knew what he was talking about. That afternoon, I started a notebook. Times, dates, receipts, phone records. All the evidence of my wife's double life, written down in my careful contractor's handwriting. I also started paying attention to details I'd been ignoring. The way she always showered immediately after coming home. How she'd started doing laundry more frequently. The new underwear that appeared in her drawer. But mostly, I watched her lie. She was good at it. Smooth. She'd had practice. "I'm thinking about joining a gym," I mentioned one evening. "That's great, honey. Exercise is so important." "Maybe that Iron Paradise place. I heard it's popular." She paused just for a second. "I think that's more of a rough crowd. Maybe try the community center instead." "You know about Iron Paradise?" "I've heard things. You know how people talk." Another lie, smooth as silk. 2 weeks later, she announced another conference. "It's a big one. 5 days in Portland. Major networking opportunity." "Portland, Maine?" "Oregon. West Coast connections are crucial for expanding the business." I helped her pack, playing the supportive husband. She was bringing lingerie I'd never seen before. "New clothes?" I asked. "Conference wardrobe. Image is everything in this business." After she left, I called in sick again and drove to Iron Paradise. The black Camaro was there, which meant Rafe wasn't in Portland with my wife, unless she wasn't in Portland either. I sat in the parking lot thinking. If Vanessa was lying about the conference, where was she? If she was local, I could find her. If she was actually in Portland, I was chasing shadows. My phone buzzed. Text from Caleb. "Dad, Mom's location services are showing her phone at the Riverside Resort. Isn't that like 20 minutes from our house?" The Riverside Resort. I knew it. Expensive, discreet, popular with people having affairs. It was also exactly 23 minutes from Iron Paradise. I drove there and parked behind the restaurant. The resort was built around a lake with individual cabins scattered through the woods, perfect for privacy. I didn't know what I was looking for until I saw it. Vanessa's silver Honda parked beside cabin 12. Next to it was Rafe's Camaro. I sat in my truck, staring at the two cars, feeling something die inside me. Not love. That had been dying for months. This was something else. Hope, maybe. The hope that I was wrong, that my wife was just going through a phase, that we could work it out. But there was no working out of this. This was intentional. This was a choice she'd made over and over again. I took pictures of the cars, the cabin, the license plates. Then I drove home and added them to my notebook. That night, Vanessa called from her hotel in Portland. "How's the conference?" I asked. "Exhausting, but good. The speakers are amazing. I'm learning so much." "What's your room like?" "Oh, hotel room. Nothing special." "What's the weather like there?" "Rainy. Typical Oregon weather." I was looking at the weather app. Portland was having a clear, sunny day. "Well, stay dry," I said. "I will. Love you." "Love you too." I hung up and stared at the phone. She was getting sloppy again. Or maybe she just didn't care anymore. The next morning, I drove past the resort. Both cars were still there. I went to work and tried to act normal, but my boss noticed. "You look like hell," he said. "Thanks. That's what every man wants to hear." "I'm serious. You're losing weight. You're distracted. You're making mistakes." He was right. I'd been screwing up simple orders, forgetting to lock up, showing up late. "I need some time to figure things out," I said. "Take whatever time you need. But Dean, whatever you're planning, be smart about it." That afternoon, I drove to the resort again. The cars were gone, but I parked anyway and walked to cabin 12. The door was unlocked. Inside, the bed was unmade. There were champagne bottles in the trash, takeout containers on the table, and a woman's earring on the nightstand. An earring I'd given Vanessa for our anniversary. I took pictures of everything, then left before housekeeping arrived. That evening, Vanessa came home early from her conference. "How was Portland?" I asked. "Incredible. I made so many connections. This could really change things for the business." "That's great. I'm proud of you." She smiled and kissed my cheek. "I'm going to shower. Then maybe we can have dinner together, like old times." While she was upstairs, I checked her suitcase. Her clothes smelled like cologne and cigarettes. Rafe's cologne. She'd never been to Portland. During dinner, she talked about the conference that never happened, made up names, invented workshops, described hotel rooms she'd never seen. She was so comfortable lying that she almost seemed to enjoy it. "You seem different," she said. "More relaxed. Just happy to have you home." "Well, I might have to travel more. The business is really taking off." "I'm sure it is." That night, I lay in bed listening to her sleep. Tomorrow, I would start planning. Not just documenting. Planning. Because if Vanessa wanted to play games, I was going to change the rules. The next morning, I called Caleb into the kitchen. "We need to talk," I said. "About what?" "About your mother." I showed him the notebook, the pictures, the evidence I'd collected. He went pale. "Dad, I suspected something, but I didn't want to believe it." "What did you suspect?" "The Instagram posts. The way she's been acting. The phone calls she takes in private." He paused. "I'm sorry. I should have told you. You're not responsible for your mother's choices." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to end this. Legally. Smartly. But I'm going to end it." "I want to help." "No, you're 18. You've got college your whole life ahead of you. Don't get pulled into this mess." "She's my mother, but you're my father. And what she's doing is wrong." I looked at my son, amazed by his maturity. "Okay, but we do this right. No stupid moves, no illegal stuff. We use the system." "What's the first step?" "We gather more evidence, real evidence. The kind that holds up in court." That afternoon, while Vanessa was at work, we went through her computer. Her password was Caleb's birthday, which felt like another betrayal. Her email was a treasure trove. Messages from Rafe going back 8 months, hotel reservations, plans for weekends away, and photos, lots of photos. "This is more than an affair," Caleb said. "She's been planning to leave you." He was right. There were emails about apartment rentals, lawyer consultations, financial planning. She'd been building an exit strategy while I was building birdhouses in the garage. "We need to copy everything," I said. "I can set up a cloud backup." "Every email, every photo, every document." do it. While Caleb worked on the technical stuff, I focused on the practical. I called a lawyer, not the family lawyer, but a divorce attorney with a reputation for being thorough. I need a consultation, I told the receptionist. What's the nature of your case? Infidelity, financial deception, possible fraud. Mr. Patterson can see you tomorrow at 2. That night, Vanessa announced another trip. It's a weekend thing. Team building with some potential clients. Where this time? Boston. Boring business stuff, but it could lead to bigger contracts. Will Sarah and Lisa be there? No, this is more of a professional development thing. More lies. She was getting lazy with them. After she left the next morning, I drove to Iron Paradise. I needed to see Rafe up close, understand what I was dealing with. The gym was busy, full of guys who looked like they'd been lifting weights since middle school. I walked to the front desk and asked about membership. You interested in joining? The guy behind the counter was massive, with prison tattoos and gold teeth. Thinking about it, getting back in shape. We specialize in serious training. Real workouts, not cardio classes. Sounds perfect. He handed me a form. Fill this out. Owner's not here today, but someone can show you around. I pretended to fill out the form while listening to conversations around me. These guys weren't just gym buddies. They talked about jobs, territory, respect, the kind of conversations that happened in criminal organizations. You done with that form? Gold Teeth asked. Actually, I just remembered I need to check with my wife first. She's particular about expenses. Smart man, happy wife, happy life, right? I left the gym with a better understanding of what Vanessa had gotten herself into. Rafe wasn't just some guy she was sleeping with. He was connected to people who solve problems with violence. That afternoon, I met with the lawyer. Patterson was in his 50s, thin, with the kind of sharp eyes that missed nothing. Tell me about your situation, he said. I laid out everything, the receipts, the photos, the emails, the lies. He listened without interrupting, taking notes. This is a strong case, he said finally. Infidelity, financial misconduct, deception. How long has this been going on? 8 months that I can prove, probably longer. And you want to file for divorce? I want to destroy her, legally. I want her to lose everything. I understand the anger, but let's focus on what we can actually achieve. Asset division, custody arrangements, spousal support. She's been planning to leave me anyway. I found emails about apartments, lawyers, financial planning. That's helpful. It shows premeditation, planning. The court will consider that. What about the criminal connection? Her boyfriend is on parole. That's more complicated. We'd need to prove he's involved in criminal activity, and even then, it wouldn't necessarily impact the divorce proceedings. So she gets to walk away with half of everything? Not necessarily. If we can prove she's been hiding assets, using marital funds for her affair, the court might award you a larger share. What about custody? Your son is 18. Custody isn't an issue. What about alimony? Given the infidelity and financial misconduct, probably minimal. Maybe nothing. I left the lawyer's office feeling slightly better. I had legal options. I could fight this properly. That evening, I got a call from Caleb. Dad, we have a problem. Mom's not in Boston. Where is she? According to her credit card, she's at the Riverside Resort again, but there's something else. I was checking her location history, and she's been going to some sketchy places. What kind of places? Pawn shops, check cashing places, and something called Northeast Logistics. What's Northeast Logistics? I looked it up. It's a trucking company, but the reviews are weird. People talking about other services and discreet transport. Sounds like a front. That's what I thought. Dad, I think Mom's in deeper than we realized. I hung up and stared at the wall. Vanessa wasn't just having an affair. She was involved in something else. Something that connected to pawn shops and trucking companies and men who gave friendly advice in gym parking lots. This was bigger than I'd thought, and more dangerous. The next morning, I drove to Northeast Logistics. It was in an industrial park on the edge of town, surrounded by warehouses and empty lots. The building looked legitimate enough, but there were too many expensive cars in the parking lot for a trucking company. I parked across the street and watched. Men in suits went in and out, but I didn't see any trucks. What I did see was Rafe's Camaro pulling into the lot. He walked into the building like he belonged there, like he was expected. I sat in my truck trying to piece together what I was seeing. Vanessa was involved with Rafe. Rafe was involved with Northeast Logistics. Northeast Logistics was involved in something that required expensive cars and men in suits. My phone buzzed. Text from unknown number. Stop watching or you'll get more than friendly advice. I looked around the parking lot. Nobody was paying attention to me, but someone was watching, someone who knew my phone number. I drove home, checking my mirrors the whole way. This was escalating beyond a simple divorce. These people were serious, and they knew who I was. That afternoon, I called Patterson. I need to move faster, I said. What's changed? I think my wife is involved in something illegal, and I think they know I'm investigating. What kind of illegal? I don't know yet, but I got a threatening text message today. From whom? Unknown number. Mr. Whitmore, if you're in danger, you need to call the police. And tell them what? That I'm spying on my wife's boyfriend? You're not spying. You're gathering evidence for a divorce proceeding. That's legal. Tell that to the guy who texted me. I'm going to file the divorce papers Monday. Once they're served, everything becomes official. It might actually make you safer. How? Because then it's a legal matter, not a personal one. They can't threaten you for doing something the court ordered. I wasn't convinced, but I agreed to wait until Monday. That weekend, Vanessa came home from her Boston trip, acting strange, nervous. She kept checking her phone and jumping at every sound. Everything okay? I asked. Just tired. The conference was intense. What was the focus? Team building, communication strategies, you know. Sounds productive. It was. Very productive. She was lying, but she was also scared. Something had happened in Boston, or at the Riverside Resort, or at Northeast Logistics. That night, I heard her on the phone in the bathroom. I can't do this anymore, she was saying. He's getting suspicious. I don't care about the money. This is too dangerous. She was trying to leave. Not just me. Them. Sunday morning, she made pancakes. She hadn't cooked breakfast in months. What's the occasion? I asked. Can't a wife make her husband breakfast? Of course. It's just unusual. She sat across from me, picking at her food. Dean, if something happened to me, you'd be okay, right? What kind of something? I don't know. Hypothetically, are you planning to disappear? No, I worry sometimes about getting older, about what happens if I get sick. We have insurance. I know. I just want to make sure you and Caleb would be okay. She was scared. Really scared. Whatever game she'd been playing, it was getting serious. Vanessa, if you're in trouble, I can help. I'm not in trouble, I'm just being thoughtful. About your mortality? About our future. Another lie. But this one was different. This one was desperate. Monday morning, I met Patterson at the courthouse. The divorce papers were filed by noon. How long before she's served? I asked. Today, maybe tomorrow. The sheriff's department handles that. What happens then? She has 30 days to respond. Then we start discovery, depositions, asset evaluation. And if she doesn't respond, default judgment. You get everything you asked for. She'll respond. She's not stupid. No, but she's guilty. That gives us leverage. I drove home feeling like I'd finally taken action. For months, I'd been reacting to Vanessa's moves. Now, I was making moves of my own. That afternoon, my phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Dean Whitmore? Who's asking? A friend. You need to drop the divorce. I don't think so. You don't understand. This isn't about your marriage anymore. This is about business, and business doesn't get disrupted by domestic disputes. Tell that to my wife. Your wife is trying to extract herself from the situation. You're making that difficult. Good. Mr. Whitmore, you're a hardware store employee. You live in a small town. You have an 18-year-old son. Think about what you're risking. Is that a threat? It's a reality check. The line went dead. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the phone. These people were serious. They weren't just threatening me. They were threatening Caleb. But I was serious too. And I was tired of being threatened. That evening, the sheriff's deputy arrived to serve the papers. Vanessa took them calmly, like she'd been expecting them. I want to talk, she said after the deputy left. Talk. Not here. Too many ears. Whose ears? You know whose ears. We drove to the park where we'd taken Caleb when he was little. Neutral ground, public enough to be safe, private enough to be honest. I never meant for it to go this far, she said. Which part, the lying or the infidelity? All of it. I got in over my head. With Rafe. With everything. The business, the money, the people he's connected to. What people? People who don't like loose ends. And I'm a loose end? You're asking questions. That makes you a problem. So what do you want me to do? Pretend I don't know? I want you to be careful. These people don't solve problems with lawyers. Are you threatening me? I'm warning you. There's a difference. How long has this been going on? The affair? 8 months? The other stuff? Longer. What other stuff? Moving money, hiding assets, things that seemed harmless at first? Money laundering? I don't know what to call it. I just did what they asked. They? Rafe's people. The ones who run things? Run what? I don't know and I don't want to know. We sat in silence, watching kids play on the swings. Normal families doing normal things. I want out, she said finally. Out of what? All of it. The business, the relationship, the whole situation. What about our marriage? That's been over for a long time. You know that? She was right. I did know that. So what's stopping you from leaving? They don't let people leave. Not when they know things. What things? Things that could send people to prison. Are you willing to testify? Against Rafe? Against his people? I'd rather take my chances with the divorce. It's not that simple anymore. I filed papers. The process has started. Then stop it. I can't, and I won't. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. You're different, harder. I'm tired of being pushed around. By me or by them? Both. We drove home in silence. That night, she slept in the guest room. The next morning, she was gone. Not to work, not to a conference. Gone. Her clothes, her jewelry, her personal items, all gone. She left a note. I'm sorry. I'll be in touch through lawyers. I called Caleb at school. Your mother's gone. Gone where? I don't know. She took her things. Are you okay? I'm fine, but I want you to be careful. Don't go anywhere alone. Check in with me every few hours. Dad, you're scaring me. Good. Being scared keeps you safe. That afternoon, I called Patterson. She's disappeared, I said. That's not uncommon. People need time to process being served. She's not processing. She's running. From what? From people who don't like loose ends. Mr. Whitmore, are you safe? I don't know. Do you want to withdraw the papers? No, I want to finish this. Then we proceed. With or without her. That evening, I was locking up the hardware store when I noticed someone sitting in a car across the street. Same car that had been there when I arrived that morning. I walked to my truck normally, but kept an eye on the car. As I pulled out, it followed me. Instead of going home, I drove to the police station. The car kept following until I pulled into the parking lot. Then, it disappeared. I sat in the police station parking lot trying to decide what to do. If I went inside, what would I tell them? That my wife's boyfriend's friends were following me? That I was afraid because I'd filed for divorce? I drove home, checking my mirrors constantly. The car didn't reappear, but I didn't feel safe. That night, I called Caleb. I want you to stay at your friend's house tonight, I said. Why? Because I think it's safer. Dad, what's going on? I'm not sure yet. But until I figure it out, I want you somewhere else. What about you? I'll be fine. That's not an answer. It's the only answer I have right now. I hung up and checked the locks on all the doors. Then I sat in my living room with a baseball bat, waiting for something to happen. Nothing did. But I didn't sleep. The next morning, I called in sick again. I was running out of sick days, but I needed to understand what I was dealing with. I drove to Northeast Logistics. The parking lot was empty except for a few cars, including Rafe's Camaro. I parked where I could see the entrance and waited. Around 10, a black SUV pulled up. 3 men in suits got out and walked into the building. An hour later, they came out. They were arguing about something, gesturing angrily. One of them pointed at Rafe, who was standing in the doorway. The conversation ended abruptly. The men got back in the SUV and drove away. Rafe watched them go, then walked to his car. He drove straight to the Riverside Resort. I followed him, staying far enough back to avoid notice. He parked at cabin 12, the same cabin where I'd found Vanessa's earring. I parked behind the restaurant and walked through the woods to get a better view. Through the window, I could see Rafe pacing back and forth, talking on his phone. He looked angry, scared, like a man whose world was falling apart. I took photos with my phone, then returned to my truck. As I was driving away, I saw a familiar car turning into the resort, Vanessa's Honda. I parked at the edge of the lot and watched. She walked to cabin 12 like she'd done it 100 times before. Rafe let her in, and they immediately started arguing. Even from a distance, I could see the tension in their body language. This wasn't a romantic reunion. This was a crisis meeting. I sat in my truck for 2 hours, waiting for something to happen. Finally, Vanessa came out. She was crying. She got in her car and drove away. A few minutes later, Rafe came out. He looked like he'd been through a war. That evening, Vanessa called. "We need to talk," she said. "Where are you?" "Somewhere safe. Can you meet me at the diner on Route 9? "When?" "Now." The diner was a truck stop 20 minutes out of town, neutral ground. Public enough to be safe, private enough to be honest. Vanessa was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth with her back to the wall. She looked exhausted. "Thanks for coming," she said. "What's this about?" "I'm leaving." "Really leaving? Tonight?" "Where are you going?" "I can't tell you that." "Why not?" "Because if they ask, you need to honestly say you don't know. Rafe's people, the ones who run things, what do they want? They want me to disappear. Permanently. Are you in danger?" "We all are. You, me, Caleb. As long as I'm connected to this situation, we're all at risk." "What situation?" "I was moving money for them, hiding assets. Making their dirty money look clean. Money laundering. I didn't know that's what it was called. I just thought I was helping with business transactions. How much money? Millions, maybe more. And now they're being investigated. Federal agents, and they think I'm a liability. Are you? I know things, names, amounts, methods. If I testified, I could send people to prison. Will you? I don't want to. I just want to disappear. What about the divorce? Let it go through. Take everything. I don't want any of it. What about Caleb? Tell him I love him. Tell him I'm sorry. You can tell him yourself. No. It's better if I just disappear. Vanessa, there has to be another way. There is. I could testify. Enter witness protection. But that would mean you and Caleb would be in danger until the trials are over. How long? Years. Maybe longer. We sat in silence, both understanding that our marriage was the least of our problems now. "I'm sorry," she said finally. "For what? The affair? The lies? Or getting us into this mess? All of it." I never meant for it to go this far, but it did, and now we have to deal with it. We don't have to deal with anything. I'm leaving. Tonight. If I'm gone, they have no reason to bother you. Unless they think I know something. You don't know anything. You're just a guy who filed for divorce. Tell that to the people who've been threatening me." She looked genuinely surprised. "What people? Phone calls, text messages, cars following me? That's not supposed to happen. Rafe said they'd leave you alone if you dropped the divorce." "I didn't drop the divorce." "Dean, you have to, for Caleb's sake." "No. I'm done being pushed around. This isn't about being pushed around. This is about staying alive." "Maybe, but I'm tired of being afraid." She reached across the table and grabbed my hand. "Please, just drop the divorce. Let me disappear. In a few months, it'll all be over." "What if it's not? What if they decide I'm still a problem?" "Then I'll testify. I'll do whatever it takes to protect you and Caleb. Promise me." "I promise." She stood up, leaving $20 on the table. "Take care of yourself, Dean, and take care of our son." "Vanessa, wait." But she was already walking away. I sat in the diner for another hour, thinking about what she'd said. She was right about one thing. If she disappeared, the immediate threat might disappear with her, but I couldn't shake the feeling that it wouldn't be that simple. The next morning, I called Patterson. "I want to withdraw the divorce papers," I said. "Why?" "Personal reasons. Mr. Whitmore, you seemed very determined to proceed. What's changed?" "My wife left town. There's no point in continuing." Actually, her absence makes it easier to proceed. We can file for default judgment. I don't want default judgment. I want to drop the whole thing. Are you sure? Once we withdraw, it's difficult to refile. I'm sure. I'll need that in writing. Fine. I'll come in this afternoon. I hung up and immediately regretted the decision. But I'd made a promise to Vanessa, and despite everything, I intended to keep it. That afternoon, I signed the papers to withdraw the divorce. Patterson wasn't happy about it, but he accepted my decision. If you change your mind, he said, call me. I won't change my mind. People always say that. Then they change their mind. I drove home feeling like I'd made a mistake. But I'd bought time to figure out what to do next. The next few days were quiet, no threatening phone calls, no cars following me, no mysterious text messages. Maybe Vanessa was right. Maybe her disappearance had solved the problem. Then I got a call from Caleb. Dad, I found something. What? I was cleaning out Mom's desk and I found a safe deposit box key. So, I went to the bank. They let me look at the box because I'm on the account. What was in it? Money. A lot of money and documents. What kind of documents? Bank statements, account numbers, names, and addresses. Bring them home now. Caleb arrived 20 minutes later with a manila envelope full of papers. The bank statements showed deposits and withdrawals in the hundreds of thousands. The account numbers were for banks I'd never heard of. The names and addresses were for people I'd never met. This is a money laundering operation, I said. What do? We turn it over to the FBI. What about Mom? Your mother made her choice. This is about protecting ourselves. Are you sure? I'm sure. The next morning, I called the FBI field office in Burlington. I explained the situation to a receptionist who transferred me to an agent named Davis. Mr. Whitmore, these are serious allegations. I'd like to meet with you today. What should I bring? Everything you have. Documents, evidence, anything that might be relevant. What about my safety? We'll discuss that when we meet. I drove to Burlington that afternoon with Caleb and the manila envelope. Agent Davis was younger than I'd expected, maybe 35, with the kind of sharp intelligence that made me feel like he was reading my mind. Tell me about your wife's activities, he said. I laid out everything. The affair, the lies, the money laundering, the threats. He listened without interrupting, taking notes. How long has this been going on? At least 8 months, maybe longer. And you have documentation? I handed him the envelope. He went through it methodically, making copies of everything. This is helpful, he said finally. But we need more. What kind of more? We need your wife to testify. To explain how the operation worked, who was involved, how much money was processed. She's gone, I don't know where. We can find her, but we need to know she's willing to cooperate. I think she is. She said she'd do whatever it takes to protect me and Caleb. Would you be willing to contact her? Set up a meeting? If I can reach her, try. In the meantime, we'll start investigating the people and accounts in these documents. What about our safety? We'll provide protection if necessary, but your wife's cooperation is crucial. Caleb and I drove home in silence. He was processing everything, trying to understand how his mother had gotten involved in criminal activity. Dad, what if she won't cooperate? Then we'll figure something else out. What if they find out we talked to the FBI? Then we'll deal with that too. Are you scared? Terrified. But I'm more scared of doing nothing. That evening, I tried calling Vanessa. The number was disconnected. I tried her email. No response. I tried her friends. Nobody had heard from her. She'd disappeared completely. Over the next week, I waited for Agent Davis to call. When he finally did, the news wasn't good. We verified the accounts, he said. This is a major money laundering operation. Multi-state, multi-million-dollar. What about the people involved? We're building cases against several individuals. But without your wife's testimony, it's difficult to prove the conspiracy. What if she doesn't surface? Then we proceed with what we have, but it's not ideal. What about our safety? We've been monitoring the situation. So far, there's no indication of imminent threat. So far, these people know you talk to us. They're being careful. How do they know? Word travels fast in criminal organizations. I hung up, feeling more exposed than ever. The FBI knew about the money laundering, but they couldn't prove it without Vanessa. Meanwhile, the people she'd betrayed knew I was cooperating with federal agents. I was caught in the middle with no good options. That night, I got a call from an unknown number. Mr. Whitmore? Yes. We know you talked to the FBI. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. You turned over documents from your wife's safe deposit box. How do you know that? We know everything. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What do you want me to do? Nothing. Say nothing. No nothing. And your son stays safe. Is that a threat? It's a promise. The line went dead. I immediately called Agent Davis. They know, I said. What do they know? That I turned over the documents. That I'm cooperating. How do they know? They didn't say, but they threatened Caleb. We can provide protection. What kind of protection? Safe house. New identities if necessary. For how long? Until we can make arrests. When will that be? Soon, we're close. How close? Days. Maybe weeks. What about Vanessa? We're still looking for her. What if you don't find her? We'll proceed without her. Will that be enough? It'll have to be. I hung up and called Caleb. Pack a bag, I said. We're leaving town. For how long? I don't know. Where are we going? I don't know that either. Dad, you're scaring me. Good, being scared keeps you alive. We met at the house 20 minutes later. Caleb had packed light, just essentials. I'd done the same. What about school? He asked. School can wait. What about your job? That can wait too. What about Mom? She made her choice. We drove to Burlington, where Agent Davis was waiting at a safe house. It was a small apartment in a suburban complex, the kind of place that looked completely ordinary. This is temporary, Davis said, until we can make arrests. How long? Days. Maybe weeks. What if it's longer? Then we'll reassess. What about our house? Our lives? One step at a time. The safe house was sterile, anonymous. 2 bedrooms, basic furniture, nothing personal, like a hotel room where people waited to die. I hate this, Caleb said. I know, but it's necessary. Is it? Or did you just make everything worse by going to the FBI? I don't know, but I couldn't do nothing. Maybe doing nothing would have been better. Maybe. But we'll never know. We'd been in the safe house for 3 days when Davis called. We found your wife, he said. Where? Hotel in Albany. She's agreed to meet with us. Is she safe? For now. But she's scared. When will you meet with her? Tomorrow. If everything goes well, we'll have enough to make arrests. What if everything doesn't go well? Then we're back to square one. What about us? Stay put. This should be over soon. The next day dragged on forever. Caleb and I watched TV, played cards, tried to pretend everything was normal, but we both knew that our lives were being decided by people we'd never met, in places we'd never been. Around 6 p.m., Davis called. Your wife testified, he said. Full cooperation. Names, dates, amounts, methods. What does that mean? It means we can make arrests. Tonight. What about us? You can go home, but there might be a trial. You'll need to testify. About what? About what you discovered. About the threats you received. When? Months from now? Maybe longer? What about our safety? The people who threatened you will be in custody. The immediate danger is over. Are you sure? As sure as I can be. Caleb and I drove home that night, exhausted but relieved. The house felt strange, like we were visiting a place we used to live. What happens now? Caleb asked. Now, we try to rebuild our lives. Without Mom? Without Mom. Are you okay with that? I have to be. The next morning, I woke up to news reports about federal raids across 3 states. Dozens of arrests, millions of dollars in seized assets. A major money laundering operation dismantled. Vanessa's name wasn't mentioned, but I knew she was somewhere in witness protection, starting a new life with a new identity. I went to work for the first time in weeks. My boss was understanding, but curious. Everything okay at home? He asked. Getting better. Your wife? She's not my wife anymore. I'm sorry. Don't be. Sometimes things work out for the best. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to normal. Caleb went back to school. I went back to work. The FBI called occasionally with updates, but the immediate crisis was over. 6 months later, I got a postcard from somewhere in the Pacific Northwest. No return address, no signature. Just a picture of mountains and a single word, safe. I knew it was from Vanessa. She was alive, protected, starting over. I threw the postcard away and never looked back. A year later, I testified at the trial. The courtroom was full of defendants, lawyers, reporters. I told my story clearly, honestly, without emotion. The defense attorneys tried to make me look like a bitter husband seeking revenge, but the evidence spoke for itself. The money laundering operation was real. The threats were real. The danger was real. All the defendants were convicted. Rafe got 20 years. The others got varying sentences, but all of them would be in prison for a long time. After the trial, Agent Davis found me in the hallway. "How do you feel?" he asked. "Empty, but not in a bad way. What will you do now?" "Live my life. Take care of my son. Maybe find someone who doesn't launder money for criminals." "Think you'll ever see your wife again?" "I hope not." "Why?" "Because if I see her, it means something went wrong." 2 years later, I was managing the hardware store. Caleb was in college studying engineering. We talked every week, and he visited every few months. He never asked about his mother. I never volunteered information. One day, a woman came into the store looking for Dexstain. She was about my age, with kind eyes and an easy smile. "I'm renovating an old house," she said. "First time doing it myself. That's ambitious." Stupid, probably, but I'm learning. Her name was Sarah. She wasn't running from anything. She wasn't hiding secrets. She was just a woman who wanted to fix up an old house. We started dating slowly, carefully. She knew I'd been married before, but she didn't ask for details. I appreciated that. 6 months later, she moved in. A year later, we got married in a small ceremony at the courthouse. Caleb was my best man. I never told Sarah about Vanessa's criminal activities. There was no point. That part of my life was over. But sometimes, late at night, I would think about the choices people make, about how small decisions can lead to big consequences, about how easy it is to cross lines you never thought you'd cross. Vanessa had started with a simple affair. She'd ended up laundering money for criminals. The path between those 2 points seemed impossible, but she'd walked it one step at a time. I'd started with a suspicious receipt. I'd ended up testifying against organized crime. The path between those 2 points seemed impossible too, but I'd walked it one step at a time. The difference was that I'd walked toward the light, while she'd walked into the darkness. 3 years after the trial, I got another postcard. This one was from somewhere in the Southwest. Desert landscape, bright blue sky. No message, just a picture. I threw it away without thinking about it. 5 years later, I was sitting on my porch with Sarah watching the sunset. Caleb was visiting with his girlfriend, a nice girl he'd met in college. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if you'd made different choices?" Sarah asked. "Sometimes, but not often." "Why not?" "Because I'm happy with the choices I made, even the difficult ones, especially the difficult ones." She squeezed my hand. "I'm glad you made them too." Caleb came out of the house with his girlfriend. They were talking about their plans for the future, their dreams, their hopes. I watched them, thinking about the future I'd almost lost, the life I'd almost thrown away by accepting lies and threats and fear. Instead, I'd chosen to fight. Not with violence, but with truth. Not with anger, but with persistence. Not with hatred, but with the simple belief that I deserved better. We all deserved better. The sun set behind the mountains, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. Sarah leaned against me, solid and real and honest. Caleb laughed at something his girlfriend said. The sound was pure joy. This was my life now. Not the life I'd planned, but the life I'd chosen. Built on truth instead of lies. On courage instead of fear. On hope instead of despair. I'd torn down my old life and built something new. Something better. Something real. 10 years later, I was still managing the hardware store. Sarah and I had bought a bigger house with a garden and a workshop where I could build furniture. Caleb was married now, with a daughter of his own. He'd become an engineer, just like he'd planned. His wife was pregnant with their second child. I was going to be a grandfather again. One day, while I was working in the garden, a car pulled up to the curb. A woman got out, older now, with gray hair and lines around her eyes. It was Vanessa. She walked up to the gate but didn't come in. We stared at each other across the fence, across the years, across the choices we'd made. "Hello, Dean," she said. "Hello. You look good, happy." "I am. I'm glad. What are you doing here?" "I wanted to see you. To thank you." "For what?" "For doing the right thing, for protecting Caleb, for not giving up." I didn't do it for you. I know, but it saved me anyway. We stood there for a long moment, not talking. There was nothing left to say. How is he? She asked finally. Caleb? He's good. Married. Has a daughter. I'd like to meet her someday. That's up to him. I know. I wanted you to know that I think about him. About you. About what I lost. You didn't lose it. You threw it away. I know. Do you? Because it seemed like you thought you were entitled to have everything. The marriage, the affair, the money, the excitement. Like there wouldn't be consequences. I was stupid. You were selfish. That too. Sarah came out of the house, curious about the visitor. I introduced them simply. This is Vanessa, my ex-wife. This is Sarah, my wife. The women nodded at each other politely. Sarah didn't ask questions, but I could see the understanding in her eyes. I should go, Vanessa said. Yeah, you should. She walked back to her car, then turned around. Dean? I'm sorry. For everything. I know. Do you forgive me? I don't think about you enough to forgive you. She flinched, but she nodded. I deserve that. Yes. You do. She got in her car and drove away. I watched until she disappeared around the corner. Are you okay? Sarah asked. I'm fine. Who was she really? Someone I used to know, someone who made different choices. Do you want to talk about it? No, there's nothing to talk about. That night, I called Caleb. Your mother came by today, I said. Did she? She wanted to thank me, to see how you were doing. What did you tell her? The truth. That you're doing well. That you're happy. Good. Do you want to see her? No. I have the family I need. Are you sure? I'm sure. She made her choice 15 years ago. I made mine. What choice was that? To be your son instead of her son. After we hung up, I sat on the porch with Sarah. The evening was warm, comfortable, peaceful. Do you ever regret it? She asked. What? Fighting back? Going to the FBI? Turning your life upside down? No, never. Why not? Because if I hadn't fought back, I'd still be that guy. The one who got pushed around. The one who accepted lies and threats and fear. And now? Now I'm the guy who fought back, who chose truth over comfort, who chose courage over safety. How does that feel? Like I can sleep at night. She smiled. I'm proud of you. For what? For being brave. For protecting your son. For not giving up. I had help. From whom? From you. From Caleb. From people who believed in doing the right thing. What about Vanessa? What about her? Do you think she's happy? I don't care. She's alive. She's free. That's more than she deserved. That's harsh. She almost got us eliminated. She almost destroyed our son's life. She chose criminals over her family. People make mistakes. Some mistakes are unforgivable. Do you really believe that? I believe that actions have consequences, that choices matter, that you can't hurt people and expect them to pretend it didn't happen. Even after all these years? Especially after all these years. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. What would you tell someone going through what you went through? Sarah asked. Fight back. Don't accept lies. Don't accept threats. Don't accept fear. What if they're scared? Being scared is normal. Being paralyzed by fear is a choice. What if they don't know how to fight back? They figure it out, one step at a time. What if they're not as strong as you? They're stronger than they think. People usually are. What if they fail? Then they try again and again until they succeed. What if the cost is too high? The cost of not fighting is higher. How do you know? Because I lived it. I was that guy who didn't fight back, who accepted the unacceptable, who chose comfort over courage. And then I chose differently, and it changed everything. For the better? For the better. The next morning, I was opening the hardware store when a young man walked in. He was about Caleb's age, with nervous eyes and shaking hands. Can I help you? I asked. I hope so. I heard you might understand my situation. What situation is that? My wife is cheating on me with someone dangerous, and I don't know what to do. I looked at him for a long moment, seeing myself 20 years ago. Scared, confused, angry, lost. First thing, I said, you document everything. Every lie, every receipt, every suspicious behavior. Then what? Then you decide who you want to be, the guy who accepts it or the guy who fights back. What if I choose to fight back? Then you fight smart. You use the law. You use the truth. You use every legal tool at your disposal. What if they threaten me? Then you get help. Police, FBI, lawyers. You don't face it alone. What if I'm not strong enough? You're stronger than you think. You just have to choose to be. How do you know? Because I was where you are, and I made the choice to fight back. It changed everything. For the better? For the better. He bought a notebook and left. I never saw him again, but I hoped he made the right choice. That afternoon, I was stocking shelves when my phone rang. It was Caleb. Dad, I have news. Good news or bad news? Good news, great news. What is it? Emma's pregnant. With twins. Twins? Boy and girl, due in December. That's wonderful. How is she feeling? Tired, excited, scared, all normal. Dad? Yeah? I want to name the boy after you. You don't have to do that. I want to. You're the best man I know. I'm just a guy who made some hard choices. That's what makes you the best man I know. After we hung up, I sat in the store thinking about the future, about the grandchildren I'd get to meet, about the stories I'd tell them, about the lessons I'd teach them, about the importance of choosing truth over comfort, courage over safety, action over acceptance, about the importance of fighting back. That evening, I went home to Sarah. She was in the garden, tending to her flowers. Caleb called, I said. Good news? The best. Twins, boy and girl. That's wonderful. He wants to name the boy after me. He should. You're his hero. I'm just his father. Same thing. We walked into the house together, planning for the future, talking about baby furniture and college funds and family vacations, normal things, happy things. Things that people do when they're not running from criminals or hiding from the truth. I had built this life by making hard choices, by refusing to accept the unacceptable, by choosing courage over comfort. And now, 20 years later, I was still making that choice every day. Because that's what good men do. They fight back. They protect their families. They choose truth over lies. They choose to be better than the people who try to destroy them. That night, I dreamed about the future, about my grandchildren growing up strong and honest and brave, about teaching them to stand up for themselves, about showing them that good people can win if they're willing to fight. In my dream, I was old but not tired, wise but not bitter, peaceful but not passive. I was the man I'd always wanted to be, the man I'd become by choosing to fight back. The end.